fam, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to tell you how I was able to get my breast milk supply back up after it had taken a dive. And I was really worried that I couldn't get it back up, so I researched all these different techniques to try to help. And this video took me a little longer to put together because I wanted to make sure it actually worked. And it did, and I'm happy to say my supply is back up. Baby girl's gaining weight, and I can't wait to share those secrets with you, so stick around. And at the end, we'll be putting together a blueberry muffin lactation recipe, and I can't wait to share that with you. So this video was inspired by one of my friends who recently had a baby of her own, and she came up to me and she goes, "Malia, how is breastfeeding going for you?" And I know that it's different for everybody, and it can be super stressful. Some people can do it for, 3 years, and some people can't even last the month. And I know it can be scary because you're not sure if your baby's getting enough to eat. So I researched a few ways to help tell you if your baby's getting enough to eat, and some misconceptions that you might have that your baby's not eating enough, and then some tricks that I tried myself to get your supply back up, and they actually worked. So breast milk works as a sort of supply and demand. So the more demand that your baby has on the breast milk, the more your body's going to make. And if you have less of a demand, then your body's going to make less. And something that I heard before that really resonated with me that I never forgot is your body is not going to let that little baby starve. It really helped me because I was so stressed sometimes that they weren't eating enough, and it's really hard to tell because you can't really see the milk going into them. All you can do is kind of hear them swallowing sometimes, and even then you're not sure. It can be really stressful. And there are a few techniques that you can try if you are worried to help increase your supply. Baby girl started crying. I have to tell you guys, I have to be honest, it's been really difficult for me to film lately. Having a toddler about to turn 2, and then having a 3-month-old. They don't nap at the same time, so I can't wait for them to take a nap to film. And I just had a realization that I can't avoid having them in my videos. Like, it's going to happen. Sometimes it's going to be messy. Sometimes you're going to hear a baby crying in the background. Like, that's just life. And I'm sure that if you guys are watching this mommy channel, then you're going to understand that they are just a part of my life, and they're going to be in the videos sometimes, and it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to have Nash pulling stuff out of the diaper caddy. But I mean, I watch these motherhood channels too, and sometimes that's what I love about them, is that they're real and they're raw, and you get to see what their life is like. Life with 2 under 2 is not easy, let me tell you. Especially trying to start a YouTube channel too. So I just had a realization, like, I can't avoid it. They're just gonna be in it. So here they are. Don't touch. Where's your car, baby? Where's your car? Can you go get your car to play with? Okay, at least I can get one kid down for a nap. It's so hard juggling 2 and trying to film, let me tell you. So some signs that your baby's not getting enough milk is maybe they are not gaining weight like they should. There's a certain percentage that your baby's supposed to gain after they're born. They lose like 10%, but then they gain it back in a certain amount of time. It's a whole thing. If they're not breastfeeding frequently, like they're supposed to feed every 2 to 3 hours when they're first born, or if they're not feeding long enough, like they only feed for a minute and then they're done, or they feed for a minute and they fall asleep. That's a big one too. Maybe they don't have enough wet diapers. I know when you get out of the hospital, they send you home with a sheet so you can keep track of how many wet diapers they have, how many soiled diapers they have. That's another way to know if they're not getting enough to eat. Or if you notice signs of dehydration. One sign is that they can have more yellow colored urine in their diapers. Filming and rocking a bassinet at the same time. Mom life. And then I also found some misconceptions about having low breast milk. And these might make you think that you have low breast milk, but they are actually misconceptions. If your baby wants to feed frequently, it doesn't mean that they're not getting enough breast milk. They may just be going through a growth spurt and they need to eat more frequently at that time. It doesn't mean that your supply is low. If your baby doesn't want to be put down, it doesn't mean that it's because they're not eating enough. They may just need extra cuddles at that time. Or they're tired and they're having trouble sleeping and they want you to rock them to sleep. If your baby's waking up frequently during the night, it doesn't mean that they're not eating enough. Again, it could just mean that they're going through a growth spurt. When you're breastfeeding, babies digest the breast milk faster because it's so easy for their body to absorb as if they're having formula. It takes longer for their body to absorb it, so sometimes they might not wake up as often as if they were formula fed. But still not a reason to stop breastfeeding, because even if they were formula fed, if they went through a growth spurt or something, they would still wake up frequently during the night to feed more often. I don't know if you guys can hear her sound machine. I just realized that it was on this whole time, but it helps her sleep. If you guys caught my newborn essentials video, I talk about all of my tips and tricks. You'll see some of these items on there, like the sound machine, that really help get them to sleep. Maybe she's just hungry. Okay. Are you hungry? Here's my angel. Ow! Why do they always grab your hair? Oh, this is why I cut my hair for my first kid. They wouldn't be pulling it all the time. And then I missed my long hair, so when I got pregnant again, I didn't want to cut my hair this time. But now I'm regretting it because she pulls my hair all the time. Another misconception that your baby's not getting enough to eat is maybe they are not eating long enough. Just because they're not eating for a long time does not mean that you are not making enough breast milk. But if they are eating too long, it also doesn't mean that you're not making enough breast milk. Some women's supply just comes out faster or not as fast as other people. Everybody's different. One that I didn't know, that I learned, I was giving my baby a bottle after I would breastfeed because I thought that she wasn't getting enough to eat, and she would take the bottle, so I was like, okay, that must mean that I'm not making enough milk and she wants more. But that's not the case. Even if your baby takes a bottle after you breastfeed, it doesn't mean that you're not making enough milk. If you offer them some more food after their tummies are already full from the breastfeeding, they will still take the bottle and they can get overfed that way. I didn't know that. Another misconception is that your breasts feel softer or they don't feel as engorged as they did in the beginning. Doesn't mean that you're not making enough breast milk now. Around 2 to 3 months, your breast milk supply starts to even out because it learns how much your baby actually needs. So you won't be as engorged and full all the time as you previously were. And that doesn't mean that you're not making enough milk anymore. It just means that your body is learning how much your baby actually needs and is starting to even out. I find it harder to build a breast milk stash after that because usually you're building a stash off of the extra breast milk that your baby wasn't using. But once your breast milk supply starts evening out, I find it hard to start storing all the extra because I'm only making enough that the baby needs. Also, if your breasts are not leaking as much as they used to, it doesn't mean that you're not making enough breast milk. It just means that your supply is starting to even out, so it's not making an excess amount where you're leaking through your clothes anymore. Another misconception is you can't pump as much as you used to. Doesn't mean that you're not making enough breast milk. Just means that your supply, like I said, is starting to even out and you're not able to pump as much extra as you used to because your body's just making enough that the baby needs, and that's all. I feel like there's a lot of pressure out there always to be a perfect mother, especially social media. You always hear about people in their breastfeeding journey and it's going so well and they're able to feed effortlessly. But don't believe everything you hear on social media or hear on YouTube. Life is not perfect. You're just seeing the perfect glimpses of people's lives when everything is working out. But it's not always reality. Even I'm able to edit out the imperfect moments when my baby is screaming in my ear or Nash is crying because he's hungry. But sometimes I like to include those in the video so you know that, nobody's perfect. And I encourage you to follow... Oh my god, she's farting. Nobody's perfect. And I encourage you guys to follow mothers that actually show the realities of motherhood because it's important as a new mother especially, and a seasoned mother, to follow people that encourage you and support you and to help you realize that you're not alone in this journey. Which is another reason why I wanted to film this video, because when my friend came up to me asking how my breastfeeding was going, I wanted her to know that mine wasn't perfect either and we are all in this together. If you'll excuse me, the other one is crying now. Okay, let's try this again. After to tell you, yesterday I was so stressed out because I was trying to film this video and one started crying and then I got that one to sleep and then the other started crying and I got that one to sleep, but then the other one woke up. It's like one thing after another, and sometimes like I don't even have time to get dressed myself until 2 p.m. and then it's like, do I put real clothes on or do I just put pajamas back on? Motherhood is a struggle. I swear it is the most difficult, most tiring, most rewarding, fulfilling experience that you will ever have. Now for the good part. These are the tips that I have learned and tried myself that have worked for me to help get my breast milk supply back up. Oh, I have to tell you, I was worried that I wasn't making enough breast milk anymore because I actually got sick over the holidays and I was taking cough medicine and I wasn't realizing it affects your breast milk supply. Now you should always talk to your doctor, of course, before taking any medication while you're breastfeeding. My doctor told me that only a small amount of the cough syrup was going into the breast milk supply, so it would be okay as long as I didn't overdo it. But I did notice that the cough syrup was decreasing my supply and I was worried that she wasn't making as many wet diapers anymore. She was also getting constipated, which is a sign of dehydration, and I was noticing more yellow urine in her diapers, which was another sign. I was topping her up with bottles after the breastfeeding and she was taking the bottles, so it was making me think like, oh, I must not be making enough breast milk, which is a misconception. But because of all the other signs, I was under the impression that I wasn't making enough breast milk. So I researched these tips and I tried them out over the week, and now I am confident that my supply is back up and she's eating well and gaining weight, having full wet diapers again. So the first tip I tried was pumping an hour after you feed the baby. And it's like putting in an order ahead of time before the next feeding. So your body thinks that it's not making enough, it has to produce more. So for the next feeding, you're gonna be making double. Also, it's good to massage the breast while you're feeding the baby, and this helps to open up all the ducts in your breast so there's no clogs, everything's flowing nicely. Another tip is to drain the breast as much as possible. So if you need to have the baby stay on longer than you usually do, you can try that. Another tip is if I have the baby on one side too long, my breasts get sensitive and feel painful. So you can switch them over to the next side, but then after they're done with that side, try to switch them back over and switch back and forth like 2 or 3 times just to make sure that each breast is drained as much as possible, so your body realizes that it needs to be making more for the next feeding. Another good tip was use the breast instead of a pacifier. We are big on pacifiers in my house, both of my kids. It's super helpful, you know, especially when you're out in public trying to soothe them. But for the week that I was trying to get my breast milk supply back up, instead of just going to the pacifier to soothe them, I would put them on the breast, and that would let your body know that there was more of a demand and therefore it had to make more supply. Okay, this is a big tip, and I know that you hear it all the time, but water, water, water. People are supposed to have 64 ounces of water every day, which is, what is it, like 8 glasses of water a day. When you're breastfeeding, it's double. You're supposed to have 128 ounces of water every day. And if you're not taking in fluid, then you're not able to produce fluid. So it's really important to start drinking more water. There are great water bottles out there. This is the one that I use. It's the thermo flask, and I got this at Costco, and they sell 2 per pack. This is great. It keeps the water cold for 12 hours. I use it at the hospital since I'm a nurse and I work 12-hour shifts, and it will keep the water cold all 12 hours. Hi, I love you. Are you watching Mommy? And this is the tip that really, really helped me, and that was I dedicated 2 full days to getting my supply back up. And it really only took 2 days until I noticed that my supply was back up again. She's talking. So for 2 days, I kept the baby right by my side. If she needed a pacifier, I would put her on the breast. If she was fussy, I would put her on the breast. Before she went to sleep, I would put her on the breast. And it was like I was feeding her every, I don't know, hour or 30 minutes, which is kind of like that tip that I told you to pump an hour after you feed them. Instead of pumping, I just fed her again. So I would keep offering it to her, and she would keep taking it, and we did that for 2 days. The third day, I noticed that she was making many more wet diapers. The color of her urine was starting to clear up, and I could feel the letdown again. And of course, if none of these tips work for you, I suggest that you go find a lactation consultant. I used a midwife for both of my pregnancies, and they were lifesavers, and they have great resources for your OB. They can suggest some great lactation consultants. Also, public health here in Canada, they have a great public health system. They call you a day or two after you go home from the hospital, and they make sure you have everything you need. If you have any questions, they can answer it for you. And like I said, everybody's breastfeeding journey is different. If it's not for you, all the power to you. You just do you, girl. You do the best you can do. But I know a lot of times people will give up because they don't think they're doing it right. But I'm here to tell you, you're a superstar. You can do this. And I hope some of these tips help you like they helped me. And then the last tip I have is our blueberry muffin lactation recipe. So let's go to the kitchen and I will show you how to make those. Hey fam, so welcome back. We are in the kitchen now, and it is the next day. I didn't get a chance to bake yesterday because Nash was asleep, and I wanted him to help me out with the recipe. He always loves helping out in the kitchen, and I use it as like a teaching opportunity to teach him how to cook. So I've got my whole little baking station set up here. We're gonna be making some blueberry lactation muffins. So I went to the store and I was gonna make it from scratch, like the whole flour and vanilla, sugar. I'll link a recipe down below if you want to do it from scratch. But while I was shopping, I just found already made oatmeal muffin mixture. I know, since I'm a mom of 2, ain't nobody got time to make things from scratch anymore. So I thought this would be a lot easier, especially since I'm working with a toddler who has 0 patience. I thought this would be a good alternative. So let's make it. Nash, you ready to help me? Alright. Got my helper.
One.
Alright.
One.
Yes, you got blueberries. Yeah, you can munch on those while we bake. 1 cup water. Okay, put the water. Hold it. 4. Good job. And to be specific, this is oatmeal muffins. So the oatmeal is supposed to help with lactation. It's really the carbs in there that are gonna help you. Nash is eating away at these blueberries, so we better do this before he eats it all. Mix. You wanna mix? You wanna pour it in, or you wanna mix? You can mix. Welcome. Get it. Just a little extra vanilla. We got an extra helper. Alright guys, and that is it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments. I will be inserting the recipe for the blueberry oatmeal lactation muffins. And they are pretty good, and they are Nash approved. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And I would love to create a community where new mamas and old mamas can come together and help each other out. I know I wish I was part of a community like that when I had my first baby, so that's what I kind of want to create here, is a place where we can come together and talk to each other. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. Nash. Want to try this muffin? Try your muffin. How is it? Good? Good job. High five. Good muffin. Yeah.